morning! In this video, I will tell you everything you need to know before playing Broken Sword. In case you don't know, the Broken Sword franchise is a famous point-and-click adventure game series, and it's known for its rich narratives, humor, and sophisticated puzzles. Broken Sword is pretty laid back compared to most adventure games, encouraging players to get lost in conversations and puzzle solving. It is often compared to classics like Monkey Island. So far, there are 5 games, and the developers have announced that the 6th game is in the works. In advance, I will say that all games continue the story from the previous one except for the 2nd game in the series. It's the only one that doesn't involve the Knights Templar. It also means that Broken Sword number 3 follows the story from the 1st game. A bit confusing maybe, but that's the way it is. Partially because of this, fans have created Broken Sword 2.5, which focuses on what happened between Broken Sword 2 and 3. I have not checked it out yet, but you could if you wanted to. Anyway, in all games, the main characters are George. He is an American tourist who somehow keeps finding himself in trouble. He's curious, friendly, and happy most of the time. But of course, he's not able to do this without help from his friend Nicole, or Nico for short. She's a French journalist who regularly studies cases for work. Because of this, her path just happens to cross with George from time to time. Because they often have the same goals, they almost always team up and solve mysteries. In most games, though not all of them I believe, you will switch between George and Nico to help them solve their part of the investigation. Let's go over the games one by one. Broken Sword 1. This is the first game and it's called Shadow of the Templars. We meet George Stobbart for the first time, who is touring Europe. Problems begin when he accidentally witnesses a bomb attack on a cafe in Paris. He meets Nico for the first time. Together, they try to uncover who is responsible for the bomb attack and why. While doing so, they find out more about the Knights Templar, hence the title of the game, The Shadow of the Templars. The second game is called The Smoking Mirror, and it is the only game that doesn't involve the Knights Templar. 6 months after the first game, George returns to Paris and meets up with Nico, who tells him she's investigating a new story. She invites him to a meeting where she gets kidnapped and George gets trapped. It is now up to George to save his friend Nico and figure out what is going on. Third game is called The Sleeping Dragon. It's the first game in the series to feature 3D graphics, and it's the only game to not use point and click. In it, we first become George, who is flying to Congo, where a lot happens. He was supposed to meet a scientist, but that goes horribly wrong. His investigation eventually leads him back to Paris, where his good friend Nico is investigating something of her own. The paths of Nico and George align, and now they have to team up and figure out what is going on. The next game, Broken Sword number 4, is called The Angel of Death. This game is also in 3D, but it does include the point-and-click interface. George and the girl with the manuscript search for a great treasure that the manuscript should lead them to. Unfortunately, this leads to him being locked up and Nico having to rescue him. As they always do, George and Nico team up and solve the mystery. The 5th game in the series is called The Serpent's Curse. It is the only game that was released by a Kickstarter campaign, and it returns to the 2D roots of the series. Several months after the events of the previous game, George reunites with Nico in Paris while attending the opening of an exhibition. Moments after the reunion, a pizza courier arrives, steals a painting, and assassinates the owner of the gallery. Of course, George and Nico can't let this slide, so they start the investigation to figure out what is going on. Those are the 5 games that have been released. The developers have announced though that they are working on a 6th game, Parsifal's Stone. It is said it will feature a super 2D visual design using hand-painted background art imposed onto 3-dimensional scenes to make the game scenes feel more cinematic and believable. A release date unfortunately has not been given yet. If there's something I have forgotten, do let me know. And if you're interested in the gameplay, I will be posting the remastered version, it's called Reforged, of the first game very shortly. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching. Curious what happens next? Subscribe to my page so you don't miss anything.